Jay Glazer loves this time of year in a way that I do not. So you guys got your questions? You got your questions fired up for Jay? What kind of secret information can he give us? It's lying season, Jay. It's always nice seeing you. Thank you for making the time.
Absolutely, brother.
As always, what's the good information you've got at quarterback? Tell us, because
obviously, one, it's Bryce Young. That's where they're going. I think that, people are trying to smoke screen it right now that they're not. And that's really, there's a big drop off for everybody. Kind of everybody's bored. It was Bryce Young first. And then even though he's got a smaller frame, but it's interesting because like Houston at 2, that's the guy they wanted. They weren't able to move up for him. Obviously that's who Carolina wanted. That's who the Raiders wanted. That's who everybody kind of wanted him. And when they didn't, get in the sweepstakes with the Bears, there's just a big drop off over there. So even like 2 right now, I know today they're going to have their own mock draft in Houston and try to figure out what they're going to do. And I think at this point too, you try and almost fall in love with someone, especially when you're in that position. If you can't trade out. Now here's the thing. People are going to try and trade out. There's going to be a lot of that. I just don't see a lot of teams wanting to really move up at this point into the top 3, but things change here in the next 48 hours.
Jay, a mock draft when you have the number 2 pick seems odd, right?
Can't be very exciting.
Weird.
Oh, a what? A mock draft when you have the number 2 pick?
Yeah, like Bryce Young's off the board. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Mock draft
So then
done.
you got everybody else, except that your guy is gone. Yeah. So, no, you kind of.
damn it, we wanted Young, and then they all fall to their knees as a franchise.
What do we do?
What I say about a mock is that they'll have different people in the room kind of give what they want, who they think you can go. So you have obviously CJ Stroud, you have Will Levis, you have Richardson, you have 2 defensive ends over there, Jalen Carter. So it's not just one person. It's not just Nick Caserio gives his, okay, this is who I want. So you kind of, you do that, and everybody does their mock drafts. Here's the crazy thing about the draft, gang. You'd think that like everybody has their stuff done up to this point, and they don't. And things change. I'll give you a story here. Like Dallas Cowboys one year, they tell me, hey, we're definitely going Sean Merriman. That's our guy. Sean Merriman. The night before that, I said, you guys still on Merriman? Yep, we're on Merriman. Draft day, they wake up, they call, and they said, yeah, we're going to come off Sean Merriman today. We're going to go to DeMarcus Ware. I'm like, what happened the last 364 days? And they literally changed that day. And that happens an awful lot. It happens when guys are on the clock. And that's why whenever you see mock drafts, they're completely full of shit because these guys don't know what they're doing, and they change so much in these last, 72, 48, 24 hours. It's amazing how much change happens. And I think a lot of it, George Young, the great George Young, used to have a line, it's paralysis by overanalysis. You think you have everything set, then you start, let's go back in and start questioning it some more, and then all of a sudden you flop in what you're trying to do.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Can you say George Young without saying the great George Young?
That is my guy.
Yeah,
Let me tell you something about George Young.
Yeah,
okay?
please.
When I first started this business, right, man, I was getting crushed, especially by people in the Giants because I was covering the Giants. And George Young would protect me. But George Young, when I first started covering the NFL, George Young never had a drop of alcohol in his life. And Dan, you know me, I'm not the one who's going to wake up early and have coffee. I'm the guy who's going to be there with everybody at the bar until 4 o'clock in the morning. And George Young would sit there with me at the owners meeting in the bar till it closes to just validate me to everybody else saying, hey, he's a good kid. You could trust him. So that is my guy forever.
The great George Young.
There you go.
Yes.
The greatest.
Jay, you don't think the Texans are actually going to pass on taking a quarterback, right? There's no way they think Davis Mills is the answer.
No, I don't think they think Davis Mills is the answer either. But it's kind of, if you're not in love with these guys, then you're stuck with somebody you're not in love with. And, the problem, too, is like the pass rushers, like Will Anderson, that guy's a coach out there. He's phenomenal, but he's not a quick twitch guy. He's probably not going to get you 15 sacks a year. And then, you have the Texas Tech, outside backer, edge rusher. And there's questions marks on him also. So, man, to have that second pick, and especially where Nick Caserio sitting right now, because I think I don't know if his season's getting warm or not, but there's certainly a lot of rumblings there. I think he's got a lot of pressure to do this. And listen, he had a chance to trade up for that first pick, and didn't happen. And I think there's a lot of pressure on that. as well. So yeah, you don't want to screw this one up, but if you're not totally in love with someone, that's where you get stuck.
Jay, NFL insiders seem to all have multiple phones. How many phones do you have? What's the minimum number of phones that an NFL insider is required to have?
I used to have more than one. I got one now, and one of them it was an untraceable number that actually, I shouldn't say untraceable. It went to like some poor lady in Arkansas who would, like, when people try and, like, if anybody ever was trying to, like, trace my number or whatever, or got that number and called down there, or it somehow just got to, it didn't come to me. Let's just say that.
Does that woman have a lot of breaking NFL news?
Can we call that woman?
That she does not want.
Well, no, it was my phone number, but it just traced to her. Somebody tried to trace it. And that was, listen, I had that when I had the Spygate video, and I thought for sure back then my phones were being tapped, and they were trying to get, I was kind of looking at like the head of security for the NFL was part of the Mossad, and he freaking was not. Not even close, but I was paranoid as shit back then.
Jay, when we go off air, stay with us so I can get that number and we can call it and we can ask that.
I don't have it anymore now.
I want to have her on to see what's on the phone. Yeah.
When you're
back then too, man, we had a phone and a BlackBerry, and then early on you'd have a pager and shoot, I'm kind of dating myself here, but now I'm just down to one.
When you answer the phone, when you're reporting on a story, do you answer unknown numbers? And if you do,
No.
do you have a different voice that you answer with? Because I do.
No, I don't answer unknown. I don't answer unknown phone numbers. And none of my guys. Well, I shouldn't say that. Two of my guys have unknown numbers, or no caller ID, but I know exactly who it is, and I know when they're going to call.
But if you're a little unsure, do you go hello?
Nope.
He doesn't answer.
I don't answer. Absolutely not.
Jay,
Yeah. Hello.
the most interesting team and the most interesting player in the draft.
Most interesting player in the draft is Anthony Richardson, because it's you either hit huge or you completely missed, and I don't know the answer to that because we don't know how he's going to develop. But man, there's a lot to be excited about there if you could hit with him. By the way, I also love Hendon Hooker. I think a lot more than most. And the most interesting team, the draft starts at 2.